Chapter 1. The progress bar. I was struck by lightning 3 times a year I was a junior in high school. I didn't die, but I came away with a strange new condition. I can see a progress bar above everyone's head. The first time I noticed it was during sophomore year in Algebra 2. Mr. Davis was going on about trigonometric functions, spitting a little every time he hit a consonant. I was propping my chin up, bored, staring at the bright red number floating over his bald spot, 97%. The number was dynamic, ticking up every few seconds, 97. 1%, 97. 2%, 97. 3%. So the key to this problem is... Mr. Davis trailed off, his voice catching in his throat. He clutched his chest, his face turning ghost white in an instant. The number above his head jumped to 98%. Sir? The class president asked tentatively. 99%. I shot up from my chair, the legs screeching against the linoleum. Somebody call 911. Every head in the class swiveled to look at me like I was insane. Alex Carter, what the hell is wrong with you? The principal yelled from the doorway. But Mr. Davis was already collapsing. With a soft thud, the piece of chalk slipped from his fingers, drawing a jagged, twisted line down the blackboard. A final, broken period at the end of his life. The number above his head froze at 100%. The classroom was dead silent for 3 seconds, and then chaos erupted. Screams, sobs, the crash of desks and chairs. It was a symphony of panic. By the time the paramedics arrived, sirens wailing. One of them just shook his head. Massive heart attack. He was gone before he hit the floor. The principal dragged me into her office and shut the door, her eyes drilling into mine. Alex, how did you know he was in trouble? How was I supposed to answer that? Tell her I saw a death timer counting down over his head? He looked pale. I mumbled, staring at the floor. His lips were turning blue. She was quiet for a long time before finally sighing. Have you been under a lot of stress lately, Alex? Maybe you should talk to the school counselor. I'm fine, I said, turning and walking out. When I got back to class, the atmosphere was thick enough to choke on. Everyone was looking at me, but nobody would meet my eyes. Mark, the guy who sat next to me, silently slid his desk a good 2 feet away from mine, his movements careful, as if terrified of making a sound. Jinx, he muttered, just loud enough for me to hear. I ignored him, my eyes scanning the room. Most people had green numbers over their heads, a sign of health, the higher the better. A few kids had yellow bars, suboptimal health. And Mark, my desk mate, had a pale, red 78% floating above his. You should probably get your heart checked out, I said. His head snapped toward me, his eyes wide as saucers. Are you putting a curse on me? A week later, during gym class, Mark collapsed after running the half-mile. The ambulance made its second visit to our school that month. The diagnosis, a congenital heart defect that had gone undetected his entire life. After that, I was officially a freak. Stay away from Alex Carter. He's bad luck. I heard his parents are like cousins or something. The way he looks at people, it's creepy. I sat in the back row, alone, watching the numbers above the whispering heads. The class president, green 92%. Healthy, but he'll catch the flu next week. The valedictorian, yellow 65%. Chronic gastritis. If she doesn't lay off the energy drinks, she'll have an ulcer by Christmas. Amanda Rose, the most popular girl in school, red 5%. A flower pot is going to fall on her foot in 3 days. 3 days later, a potted geranium fell from a second-story windowsill and landed squarely on Amanda's foot. As her friends helped her limp to the nurse's office, crying, she looked back at me. I'll never forget that look. It was the way you'd look at a monster. Chapter 2. The blue frame. On the day of the SATs, I sat in the silent gymnasium, my palms sweating. It wasn't because the test was hard. It was because Mr. Wallace, the proctor, had a blue number floating over his head. 15%. What did blue mean? I'd never seen it before. I only knew red meant risk of death, green meant health, and yellow meant illness. As for black, I'd only seen that once on a homeless man. 3 days later, he was found dead under a bridge, cause unknown. Halfway through the math section, Mr. Wallace suddenly bent down and picked up a slip of paper from the floor next to my foot. It wasn't mine, but when he unfolded it, his expression hardened. Alex Carter, on your feet. Every student in my section turned to stare. That's not mine, I said. See me in my office after the test, he said, his voice like ice. The blue number over his head jumped to 30%. I understood. Bloom in a frame job. The number was the probability of its success. But who? My eyes scanned the rows of students. Kevin Price, the principal's son, perennially ranked second in our class, always stuck in my shadow. He was hunched over his test, but the corner of his mouth was turned up in a slight smirk. It was him. After the test, I was escorted to the administration office. The note was filled with formulas, the exact solution to the final, difficult problem on the exam. That's not my handwriting, I insisted. We have a witness who saw you cheat, the dean said, adjusting his glasses. Who? That doesn't concern you. The blue number hit 45%. I looked straight at Mr. Wallace. How much did Kevin Price offer you? 5,000? 10? Or did he promise to get your son into that magnet program downtown? The color drained from Mr. Wallace's face. The blue number leaped to 60%. What are you talking about? He stammered, his voice trembling. I reached into my backpack and pulled out my phone. It was a recording I'd made yesterday during what my mom called one of my sleepwalking episodes. I wasn't sleepwalking. I had been following Kevin. I hit play. Mr. Wallace, during the test tomorrow, the note will end up near Alex Carter's foot. You just have to say it's his handwriting. Don't worry, my dad will make sure your son gets his spot at Northwood Prep. The recording was crystal clear in the quiet office. Mr. Wallace's face was as white as the note in his hand. The blue number climbed to 75%. You. He pointed a shaking finger at me, then suddenly clutched his head. Not his chest this time. His head. He collapsed to the floor and started convulsing. The blue number instantly turned red, 100%, and began to count down. 10, 9, 8. A brain hemorrhage. The ambulance came to our school for the third time. Chapter 3. Escaping MIT, the recording cleared my name. Kevin Price had his test scores invalidated, and his father, the principal, was suspended pending an investigation. I got a perfect score. I could have gone to MIT, but I applied to a good state school instead. When my mom found out, she hit the roof. Alex, are you out of your mind? It's MIT. Boston's too cold, I said, shrugging. It's bad for my lungs. The real reason. The MIT recruiter who visited our school had a black number floating over his head. 50%. I didn't know what black meant for sure, but I knew it wasn't anything good. For the next 4 years, I used my progress bar ability to dodge 3 outbreaks of food poisoning in the dining hall, 2 dorm fires, and 1 lab explosion. I also had to watch my roommate spend a week in the hospital because he wouldn't listen to my warning about the dodgy burrito from the food truck downtown. Dude, are you psychic or something? He asked after he was discharged. I just have a good sense of smell, I told him. The meat smelled off. He didn't ask again, but from that day on, he listened to everything I said. Senior year, I went to a campus job fair and landed a position as a product manager at a company called Genesis Tech. During the interview, the HR director, Evelyn Reed, had more than just a green health bar over her head. A small line of text floated there, too. He's cute, but his resume is pretty generic. I froze. A new ability? I could see people's thoughts? I decided to test it. Ms. Reed, I said, by any chance have you been looking for a rare out-of-print book? An introduction to quantum consciousness. She stared at me, baffled. How did you know that? Just a lucky guess, I said with a small smile. A new line of text appeared above her head. Oh my God, how could he possibly know that? I've been searching for that book for 3 years. I got the job. I found out later I was the only candidate who wasn't immediately dismissed with her looks fine, but probably mediocre tag. Chapter 4. The black shadow on my first day of work. I saw a black number floating over the head of my new boss, Director David Sterling, 20%. This is Will. He'll be your mentor, Evelyn said, leading me to a guy with glasses staring intently at his monitor. Will's number was yellow, 65%. Hey, Will, I'm Alex, I said, extending a hand. He gave it a limp, distracted shake, his eyes glued to the screen. New hire packet is on the share drive. Read it. His yellow number ticked up to 67%. Late night, Will? I asked. He blinked. How'd you know? The dark circles under your eyes are practically war paint, I said, pointing to my own. You should probably head home early tonight. Maybe get your liver function checked out. His yellow number hit 70%. He chuckled. Are all the new kids this caring? Don't worry about me. I'm fine. I didn't push it. 3 days later, Will was hospitalized with acute hepatitis. During a department meeting, Sterling brought it up. Alex, I hear you warned Will to take it easy. The whole room turned to look at me. He just looked a little rough, I said vaguely. Sterling's black number ticked up to 25%. He scribbled something down in his notebook. Chapter 5. The Deadline Project. A month later, the company landed a massive contract, developing a risk management system for a hot new fintech startup, Aurelius Financial. This project is our top priority. If we succeed, everyone gets double bonuses, Sterling announced at the kickoff meeting. If we fail, well, let's not think about that. The black number over his head climbed to 30%. I was assigned to the core algorithm team. The lead, Frank, was a brilliant coder and a notorious workaholic. He had two numbers over his head, a yellow 85% and a red 5%. Frank, you have to take a break, I told him at 2 a.m. on the third straight night of overtime. You're young, you don't get it, he said without looking up from his screen. This algorithm is due next week. No time for breaks. You're going to die, I said calmly. He finally looked up, his eyes bloodshot. What did you just say? You have a heart condition, don't you? I stared at the red 5%, the probability of sudden cardiac arrest. The yellow 85% was the severity of his coronary artery disease. That's nonsense, he snapped, slamming his hand on the desk as he stood up. He immediately winced, clutching his chest. The red number jumped to 15%. I lunged forward, catching him as he staggered. I pulled his phone from his pocket and dialed 911. By the time the ambulance arrived, Frank was barely conscious. The paramedics said that 10 minutes later, and he would have been dead. Chapter 6. The poison toast. With Frank in the hospital, I took over his work. Not because I was the most qualified, but because I was the only one who could decipher his code comments, which were basically hieroglyphics. You think you can handle this, Alex? Sterling asked, his gaze unreadable. His black number ticked up to 35%. I'll do my best, I said. A week later, I had not only finished the algorithm, but had also improved its efficiency by 30%. At the celebration dinner, Sterling threw an arm around my shoulder. You've got a bright future, kid. Here, let me pour you a drink. He handed me a glass of whiskey. I watched the black number over his head jump to 40%. I'm allergic to alcohol, sir, I said, trying to refuse. Not a team player? His smile turned cold. My colleagues were all watching. The black number hit 45%. I took the glass, brought it to my lips, and tilted it back, letting the whiskey run down my chin and into the cuff of my sleeve. There you go. That's the spirit. Sterling laughed, pouring one for himself. That night, I had a nightmare. Sterling was standing on the edge of a skyscraper, smiling at me. You know too much, Alex, he said. Then he fell backward into the abyss. I woke up in a cold sweat. It was 3 a.m. I got out of bed, fired up my laptop, and started digging into David Sterling's background. Chapter 7. The Dangerous Secret. David Sterling, 42, a company veteran who had transferred to our department 5 years ago. His wife was a homemaker, and his daughter was studying abroad. On the surface, everything was normal. But I hacked into the company's internal accounting system. Don't ask how. I didn't spend 4 years of college just going to class. I found something interesting. Sterling's expense reports were enormous, and most of the charges were for client entertainment. The payments were all made to the same company, Valerius Consulting. And the owner of Valerius Consulting was David Sterling's brother-in-law. Even more interesting, our new client, Aurelius Financial, had very close business ties to Valerius Consulting. I was starting to understand what the black number meant. Chapter 8. The Woman in Purple. The project entered its final phase. Aurelius Financial sent over a liaison, a woman in her early 30s named Vivian Croft. The moment she walked into the conference room, the entire room went silent. It wasn't just that she was beautiful, though it was because of the numbers above her head. A red 90%, a black 50%, and a color I had never seen before, a violet 20%. What did violet mean? Good morning, everyone. I'm Vivian Croft, your point of contact for this project, she said, her smile as precise and measured as if drawn with a ruler. I stared at the 90% red number, my palms beginning to sweat. It meant there was a 90% chance she would die very soon. Alex, Sterling's voice cut through my thoughts. Miss Croft asked you a question. I snapped back to reality. Oh, sorry. I was zoning out. Vivian looked at me, a knowing glint in her eye. You seem a little on edge, Mr. Carter. The violet number ticked up to 25%. No, just didn't sleep well last night, I said, avoiding her gaze. After the meeting, Vivian walked directly over to me. Mr. Carter, could I have a word with you in private? Sterling's expression soured. His black number jumped to 50%. Chapter 9. Kindred Spirits. In the coffee shop downstairs, Vivian stirred her latte, not saying a word. Her red number ticked to 91%. Her violet number climbed to 30%. What can I do for you, Miss Croft? I asked, breaking the silence. I heard you can predict when people are going to die, she said, looking me straight in the eye. My heart skipped a beat. What? Frank's heart attack. Will's hepatitis. Your high school teacher. She listed them off. It's a fascinating ability. The violet number rose to 35%. I don't know what you're talking about. You can drop the act, she smiled faintly. Because I'm just like you. She pointed to her own eyes. I can see things, too. Not progress bars. Numbers. What kind of numbers? A countdown, she whispered. Everyone has a timer over their head, showing me exactly how long they have left to live. Ich stehe her, stunned. Her red number ticked up to 92%, but the colors seemed to fade slightly. What's my number? I asked. 23 years, 7 months, 14 days, 8 hours, and 32 minutes, she said without hesitation. But it just changed. Now it's corrupted data. Corrupted? After I met you, my countdown for you turned into gibberish, she said with a wry smile. It's like your existence just broke my system. The violet number hit 40%. So why did you want to talk to me? Help me, she said, suddenly grabbing my hand. Someone is going to kill me. I know it. I just don't know who or when. Her hand was ice cold. Her red number hit 93%. Chapter 10. 3 Days to Live. I took Vivian back to my apartment. It wasn't what you think. I just figured if she was really going to die, I should at least find out why. How long have you worked for Aurelius Financial? I asked. 3 months. She sat on my small sofa, looking around the room. Your place is more modest than I imagined. I'm just starting out, I said, pouring her a glass of water. Why does someone want you dead? Because I found something I wasn't supposed to, she said, taking the glass but not drinking. The company isn't in the business of risk management. It's in the business of risk creation. What do you mean? They've developed a system that can create precise, targeted volatility in the financial markets, she said, her eyes fixed on mine. They create a panic, short the stock, and harvest the profits from everyday investors. I thought of the black number over Sterling's head. Does Sterling know? Bam! Vivian scoffed. He's the middleman. Aurelius pays him a hefty kickback, and he helps them cover up the system's true purpose. Her violet number rose to 45%. Why are you telling me this? Because I don't want to die, she said, her voice starting to tremble. And I have a feeling you can save me. Her red number hit 94%. That night, Vivian slept in my bed, and I took the couch. I was jolted awake by a scream. I ran into the bedroom. Vivian was sitting bolt upright, shaking. I saw it. The countdown. It changed. She stammered. Whose countdown? Yours. She stared at me, her eyes wide with terror. You only have 3 days left. I froze. That's impossible. I shook my head. I have a progress bar. I can see it myself. I am perfectly healthy. This isn't about health, she said, grabbing my arm. It's murder. Someone is going to kill you in 3 days. Her violet number hit 50%. The next day at work, I had a new addition to my pockets, a folding knife I bought online. When Sterling saw me walk in with Vivian, his eyes darkened. His black number ticked to 55%. Ms. Croft, what a surprise to see you with Alex, he said, forcing a smile. We were discussing the project late last night, and I just got a room at a nearby hotel. Vivian lied smoothly. I ran into Alex grabbing coffee this morning. Is that so? Sterling said, his eyes lingering on me. All day, I felt like I was being watched. As I was leaving work, I got a text from Vivian. Don't take the subway. Get a lift. Send me the license plate. I did as she said. The driver had a green 95% over his head. He was safe, but I kept my hand on a knife in my pocket the whole way home. On the third day, a critical bug appeared in the project. During a simulation, the The system incorrectly flagged several healthy companies as high risk. If this had been a live run, it would have tanked their stock prices. Who wrote this piece of code? Sterling roared in the conference room. All eyes turned to me. I had written that module. Alex, care to explain? Sterling stared me down. His black number climbed to 60%. I checked the logic. It was sound, I said. Unless what? Unless someone altered the source data. I pulled up the code repository on the projector. Look here. My original risk threshold was set to 0. 7. It's now 0. 3. The room filled with murmurs. Are you suggesting someone framed you? Sterling raised an eyebrow. A violet number suddenly appeared over his head, 10%. I froze. Vivian had said violet was her unique color, an indicator of someone with a similar ability. Why did Sterling have it? I need to check the server logs, I said. That won't be necessary, Sterling said with a sudden, cold smile. Alex, you're fired. Security escorted me out of the building. My personal belongings were dumped in a cardboard box and left on the sidewalk. Vivian came running out after me. Alex, stay away from me, I said coldly. That violet number you have? Sterling has it too. You're one of them. The color drained from her face. Her red number jumped to 95%. Let me explain. Explain what? How you and Sterling set me up? I picked up my box. Vivian, your countdown is almost up. You'd better watch your own back. I turned and walked away. She didn't follow. I got home and immediately started packing. I had to get out of this city. But just as I pulled my suitcase from the closet, the doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole. 2 men in black suits. The number above both of their heads was a solid black 100%. I held my breath and backed away from the door. My phone buzzed. An unknown number. Mr. Carter, open the door. We need to talk. I texted back. Who are you? We're here to help you. Tell me how. We know you can see progress bars. We know Vivian Croft can see countdowns. We can offer you protection. Men with 100% black bars over their heads wanted to protect me. I laughed. I texted back. Sure, just let me get some pants on. Then I went to the window and climbed out onto the fire escape. I was on the 3rd floor. Not too high. There was an awning below that could break my fall. I landed hard, twisting my ankle, but I could still run. I limped off into the night. I checked into a cheap motel that didn't ask for ID. I opened my laptop and hacked into Genesis Tech's security network. I had to see who was pulling the strings. The footage showed that after I left, Sterling took Vivian into his office. They were arguing, but there was no audio. Suddenly, Vivian stood up, pointing at Sterling, visibly agitated. Sterling pressed a button on his desk. The 2 men in suits, the same ones from my apartment, walked in. Vivian tried to run, but they restrained her. They injected her with something from a syringe. And then, the red number above her head jumped from 95% to 100%. The video feed cut out. It wasn't a network error. Someone had remotely disabled the camera in that office. I sat in the dark, a cold dread washing over me. Vivian was dead. She knew too much. And I hadn't saved her. The next day, Vivian's suicide note was all over the news. Overwhelming work stress. Long battle with depression. Chose to end her suffering. It was accompanied by a picture of her body on the pavement below the Genesis Tech building. But I knew it was a lie. She had been silenced. My phone rang again. This time it was Sterling. Alex, we should talk. We have nothing to talk about. Don't you want to know the truth about Vivian's death? I was silent. Tonight, 10 p.m. The old shipyard, warehouse 3. Come alone. He hung up. I stared at my phone for 10 minutes. Then I started to get ready. Chapter 17. The warehouse. I got to the shipyard at 9:50 p.m. Warehouse 3 was a dilapidated structure, surrounded by rusting shipping containers. I found a spot to hide and connected my phone to the micro cameras I had planted when I scouted the place that afternoon. At 10 o'clock sharp, Sterling appeared. He was alone. The black number over his head was at 70%. The violet number was at 20%. Come on out, Alex. I know you're here, he called out. I didn't move. Vivian was a fool, he said, lighting a cigarette. She thought she could threaten me with her little party trick. She could see countdowns. So what? Could she see her own? She did, I said, stepping out of the shadows. She knew she was going to die. Sterling jumped, dropping his cigarette. You? How did you? How did I know you'd be here? I smiled. You have a GPS tracker in your phone. I hacked it. His black number climbed to 75%. Clever, he clapped slowly. I knew I was right about you. Join us, Alex. Join what? Your little murder club? Don't be so dramatic, he said, stepping closer. We are creating a new world order. Imagine it. If we can predict death, if we can manipulate the financial markets, what can't we do? Become gods. Exactly. His eyes gleamed. We can weed out the undesirables, optimizing the human gene pool. We can control the global economy, making the world run according to our will. And you, Alex, your ability is the key. The violet number ticked to 25%. Vivian had a violet number, too. I said, you're the same kind. Why kill her? Because she wouldn't listen to reason. Sterling's face hardened. She was going to expose us. She was a liability. And you're not afraid I'll expose you? You won't, he smiled. Because you're one of us, Alex. A freak. Normal people will never understand you. They'll only fear you. We're the only family you have. He was right. I was an outcast in high school, an oddity in college, an anomaly at work. All because I could see the damn numbers. Join us, he said, holding out his hand. You can have anything you want. Money, power, women. I watched the black number over his head climb to 80%. I have one question, I said. What is it? What does the black number over your head mean? He blinked. What black number? You can't see your own? It clicked. Like a barber can't cut his own hair. You can't see your own numbers. The black number hit 85%. Alex, stop playing games. It's at 85% now, I said calmly. Guess what happens at 100%? His face changed. Chapter 18. The reversal of the lights in the warehouse suddenly went out. Sterling spun around, panicked. Who's there? Your men are outside, right? I said, moving in the darkness. 4 of them. 2 at the entrance, 2 on the containers. H, how do you know that? The black numbers over their heads glow like neon signs in the dark. I chuckled. But you know what's funny? The numbers are going down. What does that mean? It means they're dying. As the words left my mouth, we heard muffled thuds and short, choked cries from outside. Then the sound of heavy bodies hitting the ground. Sterling fumbled for his phone, his hand shaking. His black number jumped to 90%. Who's out there? He screamed into the darkness. Me, a woman's voice answered, and Vivian Croft stepped out of the shadows. She was alive. Chapter 19. The whole truth. You're not dead. Sterling stumbled backward. The woman who jumped was a body double. Vivian smiled. Did you forget? I can see the countdowns. I knew I was scheduled to die that day, so I made arrangements. A death row inmate who, with a little plastic surgery, looked just like me. The red 100% number over her head was grayed out, as if it were inactive. Impossible, Sterling muttered. Nothing's impossible, Vivian said, walking to my side and taking my arm. Just like Alex can see progress bars, I can see countdowns. And when we're together, our abilities evolve. I can see much more now, she said, her eyes fixed on Sterling. For instance, I can see that you have exactly 10 minutes left to live. His black number hit 95%. Sterling turned to run. The warehouse doors slammed shut. Did you think you were the only one with a team? Vivian asked with a soft laugh. Several figures in black emerged from the darkness, blocking all of Sterling's escape routes. His black number hit 98%. Wait. Sterling fell to his knees. I can give you money. All the money you want. I can tell you everything about the organization. No need, I said. The number over your head just hit 99%. Any last words? He looked at me in horror, his mouth opening to speak. But then he clutched his chest, his face contorting in pain. The black number hit 100%. He collapsed, twitched a few times, and then lay still. Heart attack, I asked Vivian. Poison, she said calmly. It was in the cigarette he smoked. A custom blend. Takes 30 minutes to activate. I looked at her, and for the first time, she felt like a stranger. The violet number over her head read 100%, but it was only over her. I never had a violet number. Not once. Chapter 20. The Experiment. You used me, I said. We used each other, Vivian replied, letting go of my arm. I needed you to draw Sterling out. You needed me to unlock the secret of your ability. What secret? Did you really think you were born this way? She laughed. No, Alex. You were an experiment. 17 years ago, a secret organization performed genetic editing experiments on 1,000 infants. You are one of the sole survivors. I felt like I'd been struck by lightning all over again. And Sterling, he was a second-generation subject. His abilities were unstable, which is why he needed medication to maintain control, Vivian said, walking over to Sterling's body and pulling a small vial from his pocket. See, without this, his own power would have consumed him, driving him insane. And you? I'm third generation, she said, turning to face me. A perfect specimen. No medication needed, full control, and capable of evolution. The red number was gone. All the numbers above her head were gone. So you can't see the countdowns anymore. I asked. Oh, I can see much more, she said. She closed her eyes, and when she opened them, her irises seemed to flash with an unnatural violet light. Now I can see lifelines. What are those? Every person is a nexus of infinite threads, each one a different possibility, she said, pointing at me. You have two main threads right now. In one, you come with me, and we become gods of this new world. In the other, you go back to your pathetic little apartment and continue being the freak everyone shuns. How do you know which one I'll choose? I don't, she smiled. And that's the fun of it. Even with the ability to see every outcome, the human choice remains the one variable I can't predict. It's the most beautiful part of the chaos. I looked at her for a long, silent moment. Then I said, I choose the third path. What third path? The fact that you only see two proves your power still has limits, I said, walking toward the warehouse door. I make my own path. She didn't stop me. As I stepped out into the night, she called after me. We'll meet again, Alex Carter. Maybe, I said without looking back. Chapter 21. A Quiet Life. 3 months later, I was working a library in a small, quiet city, spending my days shelving books and enjoying the silence. No one here knew I was special because I'd learned to control it. Vivian was right. My ability could evolve. I could now choose to see the numbers or not. I could filter by color. Most of the time, I chose to see nothing at all. I was just a normal guy. Until the day a young woman walked into the library. She looked about 20 with a sketch pad under her arm. An art student, probably. There were no numbers above her head. No calus. Nothing. Just like Vivian. She walked right up to my desk and smiled. Excuse me, can you tell me where the psychology section is? I pointed her in the right direction. But she didn't leave. She just kept looking at me. Your name is Alex Carter, isn't it? A jolt of alarm went through me. Who are you? I'm a fourth-generation subject, she whispered. My ability is memory alteration. She held up her hand and snapped her fingers. And just like that, the conversation was gone from my memory. All I remembered was a girl asking for the psychology section. I pointed the way, and she left. But when I got home that night, I found a small, folded note in my pocket. It had a single line written on it. They're looking for you. Run. On the back was an address. Chapter 22. An alliance I didn't run. I went to the address. It was a coffee shop. The girl was sitting at a table by the window, and she waved me over. I sat down across from her. Who are you, really? My name is Chloe, she said. And like you, I'm a runaway. From what? The organization, she said, her voice low. They found a way to track us. It's called genetic resonance. Anytime we use our abilities in the same city, it pings their system. How do you know this? Because I escaped from their main facility, her expression darkened. My parents were researchers for the organization. I was born there, but I saw things I shouldn't have, so I ran. What things? The truth about the experiments, she said, her eyes boring into mine. We weren't chosen to be special. We were designed to be vessels. Vessels for what? For the arrival of him. Who is him? I don't know. Chloe shook her head. The file was only labeled Project Godhead. But I know that of the original 1,000 infants, less than 10 are still alive. The rest, they all broke down. Their minds shattered, their bodies warped. They became something indescribable. She shuddered, unable to continue. So why find me? Because you are unique, she said, reaching across the table and taking my hand. You are the only subject who has remained stable for 17 years without any chemical assistance. In their files, you are designated the perfect vessel. My palms started to sweat. So, Vivian, Getting close to me was part of their plan. Vivian is the organization's cleaner. She handles rogue or unstable subjects, Chloe explained. But she deviated from her mission with you. She took an interest in you. That was not part of the plan. I remembered the final look Vivian gave me. It wasn't the look of a hunter. It was the look of an equal. What do we do now? I asked. We team up, Chloe said seriously. I know a place that can block the genetic resonance signal. We can hide out there for a while, figure out a way to erase our genetic markers for good. Where is it? A decommissioned weather station in the Alaskan wilderness. 100 meters underground, she said. They'll never find us there. Why are you helping me? Because. She hesitated. I've seen my own lifeline, and you're on it. If we don't work together, we both die. You can see lifelines? Like Vivian? Not exactly. She shook her head. I can only see my own, and those of people directly connected to my fate. And right now, you are the most important person on my line. I looked at her young, earnest face, and I smiled. Chloe, you have a number over your head now. What? She asked, instinctively touching her hair. Green, 100%, I said. It means you're telling the truth. She stared at me for a second, then broke into a smile. That's a pretty useful ability. Chapter 23. The last goodbye we prepared for our escape. But on the night before we were set to leave, Vivian appeared. She was standing outside my apartment door as if she'd never left. Going on a trip? She asked, nodding at the suitcase in my hand. Just a vacation, I said. Bringing the new girl with you? She glanced at Chloe, who was standing behind me. Chloe nervously gripped my sleeve. Relax, kid, Vivian smiled. I'm not here to take anyone in. I'm here to say goodbye. Goodbye. I'm leaving the country, she said, holding out a flash drive. This is everything on the organization. The truth about Project Godhead, and the protocol to erase your genetic markers. I didn't take it. Why are you giving this to me? Because I owe you, she said, her expression complicated. I used you. I lied to you, and I almost got you killed. Consider this an apology. Aren't you afraid the organization will hunt you down? They can't catch what they can't predict, she said with a confident smirk. My ability has evolved beyond their comprehension. I can see every possible future and choose the one that suits me best. She gave me one last look and turned to leave. Vivian, I called out. Yeah, that Violet number, I asked. What happened to it? She paused, then smiled. Violet, that's long gone. There's nothing over my head now. I'm just a normal person. What's that like? It's freeing, she said, and very, very lonely. And with that, she walked away, disappearing into the night. Chapter 24, Project Godhead. I stood there for a long time, holding the flash drive. Chloe finally whispered, Is she telling the truth? I plugged the drive into my laptop. The files were horrifying. Project Godhead. It began in 1987, with the goal of creating a human vessel capable of containing a higher consciousness. This consciousness was extraterrestrial, an unknown biological sample extracted from a meteorite that had crashed in Siberia. It had no physical form, only pure consciousness, and human DNA was its most compatible host. But a normal human body was too fragile. It would be destroyed by the entity. So the organization edited the genes of infants, strengthening their nervous systems to withstand the strain. I was subject 147, the only truly successful case. The files on the other subjects. The pictures made my stomach turn. Twisted limbs, bloated organs, melted flesh. They're not human, Chloe whispered, covering her mouth. They're monsters. So are we, I said quietly. No, we're not, she insisted, grabbing my arm. We still have our humanity. We can still choose. Can we? I pointed to a paragraph in the final report. It says here the final stage for a successful vessel is consciousness overlay. When the higher consciousness fully inhabits the host, the original personality is erased. We are just empty shells waiting for a new tenant. Chloe's face went pale. So Vivian gave us this so we could kill ourselves, I finished. The last file on the drive is a genetic self-destruct sequence. Once activated, our DNA will painlessly unravel within 24 hours. Like falling asleep, the room was utterly silent. Chapter 25, The Choice. By morning, we had made our decision. We weren't going to run, and we weren't going to die. I'm going back to the organization, I said. What? Chloe stared at me. Are you insane? No. I sat down on my laptop and started coding. They want a vessel. I'll give them a vessel. But I'm going to add a little something extra to the package. What are you talking about? The data shows that the consciousness overlay is a two-way street, I said, my fingers flying across the keyboard. While the entity is entering our mind, we can invade its consciousness. It's like hacking a server. But all the other subjects who tried that failed. Because they weren't strong enough, I said, pausing to look at her. But I am. I'm the perfect vessel. That means I can also be the perfect invader. You're going to consume it or merge with it, I smiled. If I'm destined to be a monster, I might as well be the one in charge. Chloe stared at me for a long time. Then she said, I'm going with you. You could die. Maybe, she smiled back. But at least I'll die choosing my own fate. Chapter 26. The Belly of the Beast. We didn't go to Alaska. We went straight to the organization's headquarters, a 30-story skyscraper disguised as a biotech firm. The flash drive from Vivian contained the necessary access codes, and we made our way to the subterranean labs without issue. No one seemed to even notice us. Why isn't anyone stopping us? Chloe whispered. Because they can't see us, I said, pointing to a security camera. Vivian altered the system. To them, we're ghosts in the machine. She's helping us. Seems like it. We reached the 10th sublevel, the core laboratory. In the center of the room, a swirling ball of silver light floated inside a massive glass containment unit. That was him, the higher consciousness. No form, no body, just pure, raw energy. Subject 147. I've been expecting you. A voice echoed through the lab. I turned to see an old man in a wheelchair. There were no numbers above his head, but my ability was screaming at me. He wasn't human. Chapter 27. The Founder. You're the head of the organization. I asked. The founder, the old man smiled. And the very first subject. Subject 0. His wheelchair glided towards us. Look at me, Alex. This is the price of an imperfect vessel. My body began to decay 30 years ago. Now, only my brain remains fully functional. So you need a new body. I need the perfect vessel, he said, his eyes locking onto mine. And you, my boy, are my masterpiece. 17 years, and not a single sign of degradation. You are the only one who can fully contain him. And what happens to me after? You become a god. The old man's eyes shone with a feverish light. Your consciousness will merge with his. You will gain access to infinite knowledge, infinite power. You will transcend humanity. And what happens to the original me? He becomes a part of that god, the old man said dismissively, like a single drop of water returning to the ocean. I laughed. That doesn't sound like a good deal to me. What? I don't want to be a drop of water, I said, walking toward the containment unit. I want to be the whole damn ocean. I slammed my hand on the release button for the containment unit. The old man screamed, no, you can't. Too late. The silver light flooded out, rushing towards me like a tidal wave. The moment it touched me, I felt a presence beyond all comprehension. It wasn't thought or emotion or memory. It was everything. All of time, all of space, all possibilities unfolding in my mind like a second Big Bang. I heard a voice, not with my ears, but in my very soul. Vessel, stable, commencing merger. I fought back. I threw everything I had against it. My will, my memories, my humanity. I thought of my mom, of Mr. Davis, of Vivian, of Chloe. I thought of the numbers, the colors, the moments of life and death that had defined me. Merger, encountering resistance. Anomalous consciousness detected. The old man's voice echoed from far away. He's fighting it. Initiate the forced overlay. Pain. Excruciating, unimaginable pain. Every cell in my body was on fire. But I didn't give up. I pushed back. I invaded. Just like Vivian said, if something tries to get in your head, you get in its head first. I reached out with my mind, and I grabbed hold of that silver light. And I devoured it. When I came to, I was lying on the lab floor. Chloe was crying, shaking my shoulders. Alex, wake up. I opened my eyes, and the world was different. I could see everything. Not numbers, not colors. Strings. Every person, every object was composed of countless vibrating strings of energy, and the pattern of their vibrations defined their past, present, and future. I could see Chloe's strings, They were bright and clear, but there was a dark knot in them, the genetic tracker the organization had implanted. I reached out and flicked a finger through the air. The dark knot unraveled and vanished. Chloe gasped. What? What did you do? I erased your marker, I said, sitting up. You're free. The old man was still in his wheelchair, but he was dead. His string had simply snapped. His time was up. And the silver light. It was inside me. But we hadn't merged. I had digested it. 3 months later, Chloe and I opened a small psychological consulting practice. On the surface, we helped people with their problems. In reality, we were a sanctuary for people like us, other subjects, or those who had developed abilities naturally. We taught them how to control their powers, how to blend in, how to live normal lives. Vivian sent emails occasionally from all over the world. She'd found a new hobby, using her ability to subtly alter lifelines, averting tragedies. Saved a little girl from a car crash yesterday, she wrote. Feels better than being a cleaner. I replied, you're welcome to come back and help anytime. She never wrote back to that. Maybe she never would, but that was okay. We all had our own paths to walk. A new client came in today, a 16-year-old boy who could hear people's thoughts. It was driving him insane, especially in high school, where the thoughts were a chaotic mess of anxiety and hormones. Please make it stop, he begged. I don't want to hear it anymore. I looked at the strings above his head. One of them was vibrating with a frantic energy, the source of his power. I can help you shield yourself, I said, but learning to turn it off completely will take time. How long? That's up to you, I smiled. Your ability isn't a curse. It's a gift. You just have to learn how to use it. Chloe brought him a cup of tea, smiling gently. Don't worry. We've been where you are. The boy looked from her to me. You have powers too. We used to, I said, taking a sip of my own tea. Now, we're just normal people. That was a lie, of course. I was still the perfect vessel, and the higher consciousness was still a part of me. But now, it was just another tool in the toolbox. One I chose not to use. Most of the time, I had already seen the boy's future. If he had walked out of here today without our help, he would have taken his own life within a week. But now his strings were already changing, branching off into new, brighter possibilities. I put down my cup and nodded to Chloe. She understood and led the boy into the therapy room. Chapter 32. The choice to not see. I sat in my office, looking out at the city below. An ocean of strings spread out before me, endlessly complex and beautiful. Every string was a life, every vibration a choice. I could see every possibility, every future. But I closed my eyes. I chose not to look, because sometimes ignorance is bliss. And choosing ignorance is the only true freedom. My phone buzzed. A text from Chloe. What do you want for dinner? I smiled and typed back, you pick. Then I stood up and walked toward the therapy room. There was still work to be done. Normal work. And it was good. It was enough. I reached the door to the therapy room and put my hand on the knob. I paused. I saw my own strings. In my mind's eye, my own strings were vibrating at a strange, new frequency, one I had never perceived before. It wasn't human. It wasn't the frequency of the entity I had absorbed. It was something new. And among the infinite threads of the city, one string, brighter than all the rest, was stretching from a great distance, aimed directly at our office. Its vibrational frequency was identical to Vivian's. She was back, or perhaps she had never truly been gone. I took a deep breath and pushed open the door. The boy was on the couch, and Chloe was pouring him a glass of water. Everything looked perfectly normal, but I knew that something had fundamentally, irrevocably changed. And I finally understood the answer to the question that had been lingering in the back of my mind. When you can see everything, can you still choose to be a normal person? The door clicked shut behind me. The only sounds in the room were the pouring of water and the boy's quiet, relieved sobs. The sun was shining outside. It was just another ordinary day,